Om Dada Shiva Damarabam Shankarashaya Majama Asmarashaya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmiti Murti Veda Vivadine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Savaviranta Sedanta Gocharantam Gocharam Govindam Param Satguru Ganatosh Shanti 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 Yo Namaste. Let me put this one here on silence. Yeah. So we are looking into the chapter 20. We have seen this chapter beginning with Parashurama asking further questions to Dattatreya. And Dattatreya decides to tell another story. The story is about several rishis or yanis or sages who got together, and then they started a dispute to see who was the best and whose teachings would be the better. And then, not coming to any conclusion, they invited Ishwara. Ishwara said, "Oh, no, I cannot solve this problem. You have to call the great Brahman." And then Brahman came, and then Brahman started teaching to the rishis that somehow they were still experiencing some sort of vanity. And that took us to beautiful, profound, lovely exposition of the nature of the self, uh, which is the best possible music to us, as I can imagine. And then we came to Vienna when the Noah, the verse 70, if emancipation would be something outside of the scope of the self, and then it would be a game. So you are the self, the Upanishad says. If you would have to gain it outside of yourself, it would be another game. Whenever there is a game, loss is just around the corner, as we know. And this body, we gain this body due to the grace of Shwara, through its loss. And then we use this body for some time, but we must know that we're going to lose, because anything we gain must go. Association, dissociation, and coming together, separating. So therefore, if the self would be found outside of yourself, you would be afraid of loss. But the scriptures say that the moksha is of the nature of fearlessness. So the knower, the known, and the knowledge merged in one single understanding. That I know my own self as limitless consciousness existence. The verse 71, it is certainly the primal state of the knower, but remains unrecognized for lack of familiarity and acquaintance with the self. So this is a concept that is often repeated in our texts. It's the most intimate thing, but yet we are not familiarized with it. Isn't it amazing? It's unbelievable. The most intimate thing is one's consciousness, which is not the mind. And somehow we associate with the mind and the world, experience through the mind. And we overlook that which is the most intimate, but yet not familiarized with. So we need what? We need the scriptures and the help of a guru, so that we can learn to get familiarized with our true self. So simple. The self is abstract intelligence free from thought. The knower, knowledge, and none are not real as different entities. Everything resolves in consciousness as we know. But the mind appears as an object, but the mind does not manage, cannot have an objective view of itself, and then takes the role of the subject and then see the world of objects, get knowledge of those objects, and then we have the knower as the mind, the objects of knowledge as the objects, and the knowledge with respect to those objects. So this trinity is there, but the self is one and the same. It's not splitting itself into two or three. No? So these are not three different entities because the true nature of the knower, the objects known by the knower, and the knowledge acquired through that contact with object, all of that is but the self, is resolved in the self as consciousness. None of that exists without blessing of Brahman, the self. So once this differentiation, the trinity is destroyed, it's gone, and then the nature of the self appears. So we talk about duality, the knower and the known. And here it's being presented as the trinity, of the knower, the known, and the knowledge acquired. So all of that must collapse with the understanding that all there is consciousness appearing as the knower, the known objects, and the knowledge. But it's all consciousness. And this extroversion, this tendency to know the phenomenal world of objects, must give place to introspection, a contemplation in which the person gradually but surely develops this passion in respect to objective knowledge and gain in the process vairagya and a contemplative mental state, because the goal here is to know oneself not as an object. Most of the time we want to know ourselves, but we superimpose once again the self in the mind, on the mind, no. Superimposition, starting meeting, such we want to know the self, but we superimpose the mind and its construct to the self, as if it could be said to be consciousness. Now I want self now. Most people believe that self-knowledge is a profound knowledge in regards to the fundamental nature of the body-mind, psychological, mental, intellectual. So this destroys self-ignorance. There is, in fact, no differentiation among the knower and the world, because the knower is not the mind. The knower is consciousness. The true knower is consciousness. Once you understand your true nature, and then you see no difference. The difference is simply conventions retained for the smooth working in media life, in earthly life, in media. Knowledge, the fundamental knowledge, knower, known, Jivatma and Jagata appears. So, and we are here, and we are not here to reject life. We are here to make the best possible of this experience as a Jivatma. So, this difference and this trinity or duality, knower, known, is an opportunity. And it's absolutely necessary for us to transact in life. Emancipation is eternal and therefore here now, and it's nothing to be gained or acquired. So, moksha, emancipation, realization is always ever present. It's just a question of understanding that we are already free, we are already emancipated, we already realize, because the self is always ever realized, as Ramana Maharshi used to say. It's always present. There's nothing to be gained. The self manifests as the knower, knowledge, and known. The cycle of births and deaths endures with all the apparent reality of a mountain, as long as this manifestation lasts. As long as Maya is not tired, it's going to keep going. And cycles and cycles of more births are going to endure. And the universe names and forms are going to be sustained by the power of Maya Shvara. As soon as the manifestation is realized to consist of consciousness, self alone, without any mixture. It's not, okay, so now the self got mixed up with the not self. No, never mix up. Once it's realized that all there is the self alone, not mixed with the not self, that is self-recognition, self-realization, and the understanding of the meaning of self-realization means there is only I, consciousness, the only reality. Everything else is such as a mirage or a projection. The cycle of birth and death comes to a standstill. That is the promise of the scripture. So we need to be on the same page. We cannot search for moksha, self-recognition, self-knowledge, and at the same time not want the continuity of further birth. No, I want self-knowledge, but I want to keep coming back. The desire to keep coming back is already a piece of ignorance that somehow is obstructing the merge in Brahman and Brahman, because the scriptures say that, and I trust the scripture, and it says that presenting some logic, what brings us to another verse is desire for continuity. Okay, our rather than investment, we want continuity. We come back. So usually we want, when we say I want continuity, I have my desires, I want to be back. What is that? That is a personal self-centered desire. I want more experience. I want to come back because I want to save the world. And the Shwara is going to say, hey, watch out. Okay? I decide who is going to be sent to save the world. You understand? So be honest with yourself. If you want to come back for more experience, you're gonna go back. But know that this desire for going back to save the world is more mithya ignorance. You understand? And it's not really genuine liberation. Liberation is that which puts an end to the desire to continue. So the cycle of birth is broken, and they remain as fragments like clouds. Clouds disperse themselves with strong winds. Any objection to these statements of this verse?
I have no objection. I'm wondering if there's an echo, right?
There is what?
Do you hear an echo?
No.
Okay, good. It seems to me any desire to come back and generate new experience is coming from a feeling of lack. Want something missing, which on its face, there's not real liberation there.
Yeah. So the nature of desire is such that it's going to call for continuity. But there are very, very high noble desires, you understand? And there are very mundane samsaric desires. So most of humanity are moved by mundane material desires for gaining things with the hope of finding resolution by the acquisition of those objects of desire. But one may leave the body with a desire like, oh, I know what I am, but I have so much compassion, love, I may want to come back. You understand? And so only Shwara can judge that heart with a compassionate heart who is going to say, I may want to come back to help these people. You understand? And then one may come already self-realized, and we have some examples such as Ramana Maharaj.
Yeah, so in that, the emancipated jiva is actually resolved into Tripura and becomes Tripura as well.
Yeah. So there is a passage in the Gita that says that the self-realized he still lives because one needs to have certain desire to exhaust one's karma, let's say. But he no longer identifies with his own body mind, and he identifies with everyone and everything, this entire universe. So he identifies with Shwar in that sense, you understand? And he has a compassion that tells him, so if I can, I would like to help people to remove suffering from their experience, and then they may go around helping the poor, or they may go around sharing the teachings of the scriptures, open schools, and what I mean. You see, the young is characterized by this selfless tendency of doing things for the sake of society rather than self-centered desire to do things to feel happier or to find completion. Huh? So he knows that he's Purna, but he keeps doing what is within one's programmed nature. So I mean, it's all I can tell is from my own experience. As I mature more and more, my mind is more clear and my passion is stronger. You understand? And the desire for continuation is something that dissipating, gets dissipating. And to be honest, I mean, I feel less and less desire to be alive, But while I'm alive, so I do something that can be a benefit for others. Understand? So, but then only Shwara knows if one is to be sent back for further growth, or if one solves into consciousness as consciousness. I mean, my take, I never read it in the scriptures. What constitutes the soul, the Jiva Atma, embodied, unincarnated? It's just energy, pure energy, mental, emotional, intellectual energies, concepts. And this energy has a certain power to how you say, to cluster itself into an individual soul. You understand? Desires clustering themselves is going to create, you know, the individual soul. It's nothing but, I mean, in simple language, it's nothing but our likes and dislikes, or ragas and dveshas that makes us later on physically as well. So if it is mind, which is basically it's just ragas and dveshas, it loses its energies as desire and fear. You understand? So what is going to hold this wave as wave rather than merging into the ocean? So what holds this is the fact of identity, which is nothing but our likes and dislikes, our rights and inversions. You understand? So my take is this subtle body, which is energies, mental, emotional, energy, intellectual energy, somehow it starts losing substantiality to the extent that these desires and fear, they start disappearing, they start merging, melting, not dissolving. And then from that vision, I have the impression that this individual soul does not hold enough energy to produce another birth. You understand? You need energy to produce another birth, to convince Ishwara to bring you back into another body.
That's lovely. I love that image. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thus you find the earnestness that earnestness is the only requisite for emancipation. No other requisite is needed if the longing for emancipation is intense and unwavering. Which is new or we did it last week?
I think we did do this last week. I had that we were going to start at 113, but it's beautiful to review it. It's a lovely chapter.
Oh, how funny. I see 113. Okay, they like to catch up. Let go. I'm not gonna repeat it all. It's beautiful. It's good. It's good to reveal. Satsang is satsang. It always takes different words and expression. So he is interacting because he said that the earnestness, desire for freedom is the most important qualification, and I remember that we spoke about that last week. All other qualifications follow this strong desire for liberation. And then it's a question of few days in a week, and we have only 7 days in a week, and then there's no rush. And then we saw some lacks, some obstructions, which are lack of qualifications, some propensities which are obstructing the assimilation and the internalization of self-knowledge. And then we saw that lack of faith. The second is a mind moved by too many desires. That is going to disperse a lot of energy pursuing other things. So it is not possible really to engage in spiritual inquiry. So desire must therefore be first overcome before you start aspiring for self-knowledge. Desire, you have to deal with your worldly desires. And that can be done with the development of dispassion. But dispassion and desire, they they are like light and darkness. So when you cannot have both, the moment that you bring light of understanding, and then the ignorance which is manifested desire start dissipate, and then you don't need to. Oh, no, I'm gonna get dispassion, and then dispassion, and then I'm gonna deal with desire. No, you have to develop dispassion. You need to go through the logic to understand that there is nothing really in this world. So it goes simultaneously. And then he said the sensory pleasures, the desire for sensory pleasures is the most addictive. So if you destroy them and then the other desire, because we have desires for security, which is something more genuine. But desires for just yummy, 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 give me more yummy, sensory pleasures is a big one. It is, this entertainment and pleasures. It is, the search for security is more genuine, is more basic. Okay. You need to have a one point in mind. You need to develop a meditative mind. And then he spoke a little bit of the rajasic mind and the tamasic mind. All of that is going to be difficult when you start going Vipassana yoga. But above all, she who worship me overcomes all obstacles to self-knowledge, self-realization. So there are devotees who are devoted to Saguna Brahman. The highest is the one devoted to me, Yoguna Brahman. And then let's say that the siege powers are also dangerous. You know, they become also obstacles, and they do not compare any of this esoteric mystic stuff. Is nothing compared with the worth of a particle of self recognition, self knowledge. For this is the unbroken and immortal bliss, peace of the self, in which all else is included. All experience of samsara. You have the physical material samsara, and you have the subtle samsara, you have the mundane samsara, and you have the spiritual samsara as well, which is not spirit, it's energy. You know, I like to present this point when people say, "Oh, I'm doing great spiritual work." What are you doing? So I'm getting some powers, or I'm learning to transcend or to travel into different dimensions. All of this is energy. You are just doing energy work. You are trying to find access, changing your energy vibration, accessing other realms of frequencies of energy. All of this is energy. Energy is matter. Understand? This is all samsara. So spirit is that in which all these samsaras, from the highest level of samsara, yeah, to the lowest of hell, yeah, all of that is happening within consciousness. And consciousness is the spirit. Spirituality fundamental is the search for the spirit. Yeah? All else is the search for self-improvement, development of qualifications, and then the very dangerous one is special powers such as traveling, transcending to other dimensions, or some powers to fly, as he says here, and so on. There is no other accomplishment capable of ending the misery besides self-realization. This is the state of eternal peace. Self-realization differs from all accomplishments in that the fear of death is destroyed once for all. So this is another promise of the scriptures. So all other accomplishment in the mystical, esoteric fields, it still does not destroy the fear of death, because the individual is still there, caught up with the duality, experiencer, experienced, knower, and known, and he wants more, and now he wants here, here, and here, on different levels. So none of these accomplishments are going to destroy the most fundamental human problem, which is fear of death, which applies to the physical body only, not even to the mind. Realization differs according to the efforts, the practice, and commensurate with the degree of purity of mind. So this realization may be perfect, middling, or dual realization. So we're gonna have him again from different perspective present the three kinds of yonis, It will depend, he's saying here, it will depend on what? On how much effort you did before attaining self-realization, And also, you did a lot of work, and in that process, you purify your mind. And so the amount of effort which goes for how more or less profoundly you purify your body mind, will determine the class of yoni. Realization of the self and eternal inherence as a broken eye in all surrounds are the practice and the fruit. You see, this is has an interesting point here. There is a note here saying that self-realization, realization of the self, is to the collapse of this duality, know or none, until you live from the perspective, yeah, that I am Satya, the word is Mitya, I am the only reality. So the self is inherent, is the I, the only reality, regardless of whatsoever surroundings I have around me. I in all surroundings are the practice and the fruits. So with Vedanta, there isn't really theory and practice or practice and the fruits. So the practice itself is self-realization, is holding on to their own. And the fruits itself is self-realization. I am the only I am there is. So you do it before, depending on the state of your mind. You hold on to the self as the self, make a stand, as James used to like to say, I don't know, if you still say, hey, make a stand in the self as the self. And you do that through your days. This is the practice and this is the fruit. There is no other fruit than stay as consciousness, in consciousness, as consciousness. There is no difference between your sadhana and the fruits of the sadhana. Yeah? The fruits of the sadhana is just the peace that comes with staying consciousness as consciousness. And of course, there will be degrees that, according to the purity of the mind, the purity of the mind is the mind that is not as often subject to ignorance, bits and pieces of ignorance, that creates again this sense of duality, know or none, which brings up, some subtle mental disturbance. Yeah. So you have seen great yanis, well versed in the Vedas and capable of chanting them quite correctly without any distraction. They are the best, so they know the scriptures. Those who are capable businessmen repeat the Vedas quite correctly when they engage in chanting, then without other distraction. These are the middle class. Okay, he's talking about the bandits. The bandits, the people who have self-knowledge and know the scriptures from what I have picked up so far. There are different interpretations of the word bandit, but literally is the wise man, but we know there is a distinction between academic wisdom and the spiritual wisdom, which is consummated by internalization of this self-knowledge. So some of these they know everything, they know themselves, they know the scriptures, and they can unfold the scriptures correctly, even in the middle of many distractions. Those are the best wise people. Those who are capable businessmen, maybe he's referring to grihastas. Those grihastas who live in the world, they still repeat the Vedas quite correctly. Only when they're engaging in their sadhanas without distractions. So it means to say, when they engage in the world with a lot of distractions, they do not hold as well to I. These concepts can be challenged because again and again in the Gita, Krishna Guru presents the fact that you can, as a grihasta, you can be a high class yoni as well. So it should not be an impediment. Of course, if you have some role to play in the world, the text is a little bit more challenging than sitting in the ashram or being a guru. So one of the greatest benefit I have every time I can be in the middle of so many distractions and stressful things around me. When I stop to do a class, immediately I identify with the self, I speak from the self, inspiration comes, Just imagine someone who lives in that environment all the time without having the challenges and distractions of dealing with the problems of the world. Maybe it's pointing to that, but that does not make the pundit sitting somewhere without engaging the world as superior, or maybe it just makes him and not as much test, because the real test is to engage the world. Whereas others are constantly chanting them and do it well, such as the lowest, whereas others are constantly chanting them and do it as well. So, such are the lowest order of yearning. Similarly, they are just there are distinctions. So he's saying that my take here is he's saying that the lower uh, order of dependence of the yanis, they need to do sadhana most all the time. You understand? So they need to be engaged again and again in holding to the to consciousness as consciousness, remembering the teach, make an effort to to make this knowledge hard and fast. No? So those are the lowest order among the yanis. They are newborn yanis, and they have to keep doing some more work until the certainty of self-knowledge is properly established. And there are also distinctions. The distinction most probably he's saying about the different constitutions, the Buddhist constitutions of each one of us. Huh? So the state, some states abide as the self, even while engaging in a lot of duties, such as ruling a kingdom, such as King Janaka. Or others can do it so in the intervals of work. There's still others can do it so by constant practice, the same concept. Okay, so now I have to run my restaurant. I just remember that when I had my restaurant and then self-recognition took place, I was afraid to go to the restaurant in the weekend because it was so intense, so stressful. And then I slowly relaxed. I was not trying to serve my customers and holding at the back of my I am consciousness and I was conscious because it was a distraction. I had to be a server, I had to be a sommelier, whatever. You know? But then I felt like, but at least now I know that when this stress stops, I can go back and I have no problem to identify with consciousness as consciousness. It remembers coming clearly once my mind is not engaged in being a server. So here it says that there are some, such as King Janak. I think it was here that we had the example of King Janaka, that Brahman or God project a fake fire and then to prove that Janaka was superior to the others. Was it here that we saw it? No? Did we see it in the previous or it was in the Gita? Maybe it's a passage on the Gita. Did we see that, Lynn, in the past couple of classes?
I can't place it. There's so many stories. I can't place it. What do you think, Mark?
I don't think so. I can't remember recently a story of King Janaka.
Yeah. So there was, Janaka is an example of a Grihastha yani, and there are so many. In our Sampradaya, there is a tradition of Grihastha yani. It means what? They were all engaged in the world and they get the knowledge from other grihastas. You understand? So it is the paramparam that goes on, and it's all from grihasta to grihasta. Everybody engaged in the world. They are not sannyas yanis, they are grihasta yanis. This is one channel of our sampradaya. The other is sannyas yanis. They live in the ashram. They teach in the ashram to the students of the ashram, which are sannyas themselves. And then there was a debate because the sannyas yanis, they are a little bit snob. They think that the grihastas are inferior because they have so many things to do in the world. And then one day Brahman came, when there was a discussion such as this one, he says, okay, I'm going to teach these people a lesson. They were there, they made a huge meeting there in the kingdom of King Janaka, and they were kind of a little snob towards Janaka. And then Brahman produced a huge fire, but it was not real fire. Produced an impression that everything was going to burn to ash. And then what he proved is that all those sannyas, yanis that were there went in panic and started running to collect those few their belongs, to save them from the fire. And Janaka was the only one who remained totally passionate about anything, not concerned with his kingdom that was going to be burned, but the sannyas, yanis. And that was to prove that you can never say that sannyas yanis are superior to grihastha yanis. Janaka Omar is an example that's very beautiful because he got the knowledge from his father. His father taught him, and so in many other instances, knowledge is passed even like that in our sampradaya. Some remains abiding in the self as the self, even as a king. Others can do it so in intervals of work, like, okay, when I finish my shift in the restaurant, and then I'm going to abide in the self as the self. In the beginning, I was literally afraid because I say, what if I forget that I'm a self? If I go and submit my mind in such a stress for so many hours, maybe later on, the knowledge is gone. I was afraid. And then I trusted that the knowledge was not going to be forgotten. But that was the meaning here. So some they lose it when they are involved in work, and then they stand as the self in those intervals of less work when they have a mind more quiet. And others have to be doing practice all the time to stand in consciousness, remember all the time, and they have to make time for that as well. In the early stage, one may feel like I need to stop everything because I need more sadhana. You understand? More sadhana. You almost feel like I don't have time for anything anymore. I have to put all my time in my sadhana. But this happens spontaneously. So if you have self-knowledge and you feel that it needs more practice, and you inevitably you already recognize the value of self-knowledge, and you have no problem to abandon certain activities to make room, make space for more and more nididhyasana. Of these three, I say classes now, category or order of yanis, the highest order represents the utmost limit in terms of fructification of self-realization. Unbroken supreme awareness, even in the dream state, is the mark of the highest order. So this is a nice hint. So even in the dream, this highest category of yoni, he does not lose it. I am consciousness, and this is another trick of Maya projecting this apparent order.
Arlindo, I have a question. I once asked Ramji if Taijasa could be liberated, and he said no. So what we're talking about here, what are we talking about here? Who's
Go ahead.
unbroken supreme awareness that resides in the self, right? So identity with Taijasa or the waking jiva.
So even in the dream state, the highest order of awareness, do not forget the true nature as consciousness in which that dream state, dream world appears. It means to say you can never get self-knowledge as a dreamer. You must get it as a waker. But your self-knowledge as a waker can grow to an extent that even in the dream, it's not forgotten, it's present. Okay, but you must get it in the waking state.
Got it.
And Swami Paramarthananda says, in response to my question, present to him with the help of Mark, that we need to be in the awakened state in this order of reality to gain self-knowledge. Because any other frequency of reality or realm of reality, is going to produce the fruit, the, how do you say, the this fruit. How you say in English? Is going to allow you to enjoy the fruits of your punya, So spiritual punya, you're going to exhaust and experience and enjoy enjoyment of the fruits. But in order to gain self-knowledge, you need to interact with a certain order of reality, structured in a certain way, by which you can extract understanding, knowledge from experiencing. So Jesus was Swami Paramatmananda said, and he says it in a very honest way. He says, no. This is not what our scriptures say. Our scriptures say Jesus. I haven't heard him say, Mark, I haven't heard him say, now this is the truth. More than once, if I recall, he would say, no, this is not what our scriptures say. Our scriptures say Jesus. And of course, it's implied that he totally trusts the scriptures because he has not found anything that makes more sense and something that can produce the ultimate result, which is peace and happiness to the Jivaji. She who abides in the self as the self is spontaneously, effortlessly, and continuously in the same way as the ignorant man never forgets I am the body, is again the highest order. So what it's saying here is the self-knowledge is gradually but surely being established in the mind of the young. And then in the beginning, there is a concern of holding to it in order to not forget it. And then this holding on to it becomes less and less effortlessly. And then it becomes so spontaneous that the fear of forgetting is totally gone. Understand? Spontaneously. So this highest order jnana does not ever forget I am limitless consciousness. So his self-identification, identification as the self, his identity as the self is so firm, the same way the self-ignorance has his identity, firmly established in the body as the body. Another signal here, a pointer is that this highest level engage in the world, in the work, work in the world, and see, it does not see anything as not look honest, does not see anything from the standpoint of right and ignorant. All the time he says Jesus just self. There is no such a thing as not self. So just imagine, in every circumstance, even circumstances that sometimes are very challenging, somebody insulting you or and you just see the other as the self. When you see only one self, and then what is the result? Compassion or equanimity, or balance. It says, okay, there is no human reaction anymore being produced in such a purified or pure, properly, totally, clearly, spontaneously established self-knowledge so firm that any human tendency to judge the other as some negative things, as the not self, is neutralized by the clear vision that everything is just me, everything is on the self. And these people are ignorant. That is what Christ in the cross represents when he says, "Forgive them, Lord, because they are ignorant. They do not know what they're doing." This is a concept which is interesting that Papaji used to present this without elaborating. Of course, he says, "He who, even while doing his work, remains as if asleep is a perfect sage." Papaji used to say, when you awake in the world, you sleep. And then in the night, when you in deep sleep, awake. And he used to laugh, say these things and laugh without any elaboration, and we are there scratching our heads. So how am I going to understand that? So when you're there in the world doing your work, so don't keep your mind asleep. What is a sleeping mind while awake? A mind that is not subject to inversion is the mental condition of being witnessing consciousness, not suffering those energies of attraction and repulsion, instead of judgingness. It's just a pure mind, best possible reflection of consciousness, which is asleep to the world of light and life. It's asleep to the world of ragas and veshes, equanimity mind. Thus, the best among all the states are never out of samadhi. So this is the Vedantic samadhi. Now, what is this samadhi? Is the natural samadhi, sahaja samadhi, a mind that is so pure, that sees everything as itself. It never gets excited or affected or upset or anything. They are never out of the state of samadhi. Samadhi is a state. The best sages have a better state. Jnana, self-knowledge, is one and the same for all, but the fructification is the state. What the self-knowledge has produced in this mind, so that this mind has this state of purity, of samadhi, of equanimity, of balance, of compassion. So this is said to be the highest level of a sage. He who is from his own experience capable of appreciating the states of other yanis, including the best among them, is certainly a beautiful sage. Now he really pushed it in the face of all those rishis. You are competing, disputing to see who is the highest sage here, the highest yani, and then Brahma say, who is he who is from his own experience, not just mentally, intellect. Oh, no. I appreciate, I'm not jealous about the youngs. I don't compare myself with the youngs. he who is genuinely, living experientially, having the experience of appreciating the states of other yonis, including the ones that the highest yonis. So we are talking about yonis that never stop being disciples of the higher yonis and be appreciative, So including, because we can say I'm a yani, so yeah, no, I can appreciate the lower yanis because I feel good about myself. But no, I especially appreciate the highest yanis, and I'm humble and I am a devote of such a purity, because the goal of life is spiritual development of this purity, is to convert our human nature into God nature, our humanity into our divinity. So to have these examples, such as Ramana Maharaj has been to us, is something beautiful, and that says something about a yani who somehow uh, accepts and not accepts, appreciates deeply with great gratitude this high level, the high order of yanis. And also those yanis who is not influenced by happiness and pain, misery, or better said, by pleasure and pain. Misery is a word that's mostly associated with psychological suffering. No? So pleasure and pain. So one who sees pleasure and pain and is not really affect, influence, the say desires, doubts, and fears. This is a perfect sage. He who realizes pleasure, pain, and every other phenomenon to be in my own self is a perfect sage. Everything is happening in consciousness, even the pain of the body I am using at this time. He who feels himself pervading all and everything, even pervading the most ignorant or the most elevated, the most emancipated. This is the perfect sage. Wow, just imagine the situation of all those wishes and sages there listening to these words of Brahmana. You want to be the best, the highest yani. So Jesus, those are the qualifications. He who, knowing the trammels of bondage, does not seek release from them and remains in peace, is a perfect sage. What is the meaning of this word trammels?
Mark, your mic's not on.
I'm not sure exactly, but I think a trammel is like a train line. So it's like he who knows how bondage works, basically, and knows the effect of bondage.
Yeah, I believe that the author here is referring to one's Parabada Karma, because, as we say, the yani, there is only Parabada Karma for the yani. So, and the Parabada can be very adverse. So it is a bondage for the body and to a certain degree to the mind. Okay, so he knows the difficulties of parabolas, and they don't try to escape the parabola. They don't try to escape. So just imagine, Sagadam Maharaj wants to escape family and the shock and everything, and then some people advise him, no, go back and stay there, don't escape your karma. After he was self-realized. So stay there, apparently attached to family and business and the sea. Don't go to the mountains, to the Himalayas. So do not seek release from your prarabdha, and you remain in peace in spite of your prarabdha. This is a perfect sage. Those perfect among the sages are identical with me. There is absolutely no difference between I, consciousness. I have now told you all these in answer to your questions. You need no longer to be perplexed with doubts. So I keep imagining the face and the state of the mind of those rishis after such a beautiful exposition, that somehow are so loving, so compassionately exposed, that you have to judge yourself. Don't judge anybody. Don't try to be better than anybody. So here at the signal, the signs, and so this is the goal. So don't try to be higher or superior. Just try to be a yani, and as you are, and continue this process of self elevation, spiritual elevation, for self purification. Then all the rishis and yanis saluted Brahman, saluted Shiva and the other gods, and returned to their own abode. I have now told you the sacred Gita. No, this is a Gita that is only known here. No? What is the name of this chapter? Vidya Gita. Vidya Gita. And this is, I have told you now the sacred teachings of Vidya Gita, of pure knowledge, which destroy all sins and purifies the mind. This Gita is the best among Gitas because it has proceeded from Brahman, the abstract supreme intelligence or self, Tripura, and it leads one to emancipation on being attentively heard and cogitated upon. So he says, so I have delivered you the best possible teachings. They lead direct to emancipation, but you need to attentively, do your shravana, listen to it, and cogitate upon it with a qualified mind. This Gita is derived to save one from sinking in the ocean of samsara. Beautiful. It's derived to save one from the sinking in the ocean of samsara, the infinite, the almost endless cycle of births and deaths. And so it must be studied repeatedly every day with much devotion, love, dedication, and care. So who wants to do this work? So rare, so rare. Thus ends the chapter of Vidya Gita in Tripura Rahasya. Okay, my friends, so we made it. Tomorrow I travel, and we meet again next Monday, beginning from chapter 21. And I don't remember, but my trust is going to be only pure beauty and pure knowledge. Anything else from you? Are you listening? Are you hearing? Can you hear me? No, it froze. Okay, my voice froze a little bit. It is still freezing up. The signal here went down. I'm going to close the class. I hope you can hear it. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnamadayo Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste. Now it's frozen. Everything is frozen down. Yeah.
Thank you, Arvindo.
Thank you. You got it. Okay. Bye bye. Next Monday. Next Monday.
Paula.